Don't take these flip phones at face value, because there's more to it than just features and marketing. Not doing deeper research before buying either could leave you feeling unsatisfied. So let's talk about that in this RAZR 40 Ultra and Galaxy Z Flip 5 head-to-head. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and have you been looking for a flip phone? The two heaviest hitters look to be Samsung's 5th gen flipper and Motorola's top-end RAZR. They cost nearly the same, they launched at nearly the same time in summer of 2023, and they're both similar in size and weight, and on paper they trade blows as well to compete for your purchase, though neither is really going to present the best value when compared to the standard slab counterparts. That said, I've seen listings of both models for around 30 to 40% off unlocked on Amazon, so there are deals to be had depending on where you are and where you look to purchase from. There are many reasons why someone might go for the stylish RAZR over the more boring flip. Motorola's offering sports some quick, sharp displays, both being slightly larger than those found on the Samsung. We're talking 165Hz on the internal LTPO AMOLED and 144Hz on the external display, where the Z Flip 5 makes do with just a 120Hz internal and a 60Hz external. This makes the RAZR's bigger panel more enjoyable for playing games and generally browsing around, as you get more motion clarity, and the outside screen is more pleasurable to use too, with its full screen applications, due to it just being easier to use with that extra clarity and size. Then there's the inclusion of 12GB of memory with the higher end storage options on the RAZR, where Samsung just gives you 8GB regardless of which option you pick. And that's a meaningful difference for those who multitask a lot on their phone, or let's say are working with bigger applications, and it's going to make a bigger difference going forward as system and apps require more memory to operate smoothly. Not to mention the, in my opinion, sleeker and more shapely design that feels less cumbersome in both open and shut mode with the RAZR. One of the big draws to flip phones in general is design, and Motorola takes this further than Samsung does with this generation. And the faster wired charging of 30 watts over the 25 of the Samsung, or the 100 mAh larger battery capacity, will result in a slightly better battery experience too. You'd be forgiven for thinking that the RAZR is the more promising prospect and that perhaps Samsung has actually been caught sleeping at the wheel with this generation of flip phones. But don't let these surface level features distract you from the fact that Samsung's Z Flip 5 is an objectively better smartphone. For starters, and this is a big one, Samsung has promised an extra year of software updates, which might not sound like a lot, but the Z Flip 5 is already on Android 14, already got that update, where the RAZR is still on 13, so timeliness of these software updates is also a big factor, and one where Samsung is pulling ahead. I know there are some of you out there that really like the near stock layout of Motorola software, and I'm a sucker for those really cool air gestures, but I feel that One UI 6 is just a better design system with a visual design that I'm more drawn to, regardless of its actually better support as well. Then you have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in the Flip over the 8 Plus Gen 1 of the RAZR. Sure, this difference is less noticeable right now, but if you're the sort to take advantage of more powerful chips in games or a light bit of video editing, the Galaxy has you covered. Not to mention the fact that going forward, you're going to get a faster phone for longer with the Samsung. It's less of a concern right now, and it was only really in big games where I found the RAZR's UFS 3.1 storage to be a little slow compared to the UFS 4.0 found in the Flip 5 when loading in sort of big worlds, big assets, stuff like that. Day to day though, that is much harder to tell. Samsung screens might not be as sharp or as fast on paper, but they do get slightly brighter, which is really handy on those sunny days. Though you do have to go into the brightness menu and enable extra brightness, which is a manual toggle, which is quite annoying, especially since neither of these phones employs a particularly potent anti-glare coating, and so reflections are going to get in the way on both. It's just that extra brightness does help things with the Samsung. Whenever I talk to someone about flip phones, the immediate question is, are they durable enough? And though neither of these phones is going to be my recommendation to labourers or scaffolders, Samsung has at least certified its device with the IPX8 standard, which means that it can be dunked in water for up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes, whereas Motorola has applied a water repellent coating, which isn't quite as confidence inspiring. I wouldn't call either of these phones super durable, though thankfully I haven't been unfortunate enough to need to find out about that, but the Galaxy does feel a little more solid with its tougher feeling exterior and hinge mechanism. Not to say the Motorola felt flimsy by any means, it just didn't feel quite as substantial. There are some places where they do genuinely trade blows. Vocal clarity in the Samsung speakers eclipses that of Motorola's, but the latter's slightly protruding fingerprint scanner has been far more consistent for me than the flush one in the Samsung. Then there's the Samsung's slimmer bezels and quieter hinge mechanism, and Motorola's flusher camera rings, which are less likely to catch on your pockets in your trousers. The creases though are about the same. They're both in tactile feel and visual presence about as annoying as each other, and obvious too. And since the phones have different textures on their backs, you might like the grip of one and not the other. I personally prefer the glossy on the Samsung, but I know people who like the frosted finish that you'll find on the back of the Motorola. But a key area in which Samsung has the Motorola beaten is in the camera performance of these things. Despite their incredibly similar spec sheets, the Z Flip ended up taking the more pleasing photos to my eye, with not only the Samsung zing of colour and contrast, but added dynamic range and colour balance across the range of test images I took. Look, neither of these phones is offering you the kind of sensors and lenses that you can get for the same price with a traditional slab phone, but between them, more often than not, I gravitated towards the Samsung's technically better, but also just more pleasing imagery. This goes for the main, the ultra-wide and the selfie shooters on these phones. Unfortunately, we're not treated to any kind of telephoto hardware, so you'll just have to make do with a soft crop on the main cameras if you want to punch in a little bit. I have to say, at times I actually didn't mind the images from the RAZR. It doesn't seem to go as hard on the post-processing, especially sharpening, though it did seem to miss white balance and colour temperature compared to what I saw with my eyes on a fair few occasions. So if you're looking for something really accurate, maybe miss out the Moto. In video though, despite both phones being capable of shooting Ultra HD 4K 60p, Samsung's sharpening processing produced some really strange looking artifacts, almost like a watercolor scene where someone's just put some crazy filter over the top, and Motorola's video actually looks the more natural of the two, despite the fact the colors just don't look right. Look, neither are perfect when it comes to the cameras, but in at least stills, the Samsung was the more consistent of the two. Which is a sentiment of the phones as a whole really. Despite Motorola's RAZR 40 Ultra looking nicer, feeling more seamless, and including unique features like its clever gesture tricks, coming together to create a much nicer flip package, Samsung makes the better phone with lengthier software support, a better all-round camera package, and certified weather resistance beyond a water repellent coating. It's almost like a short-term novelty versus a long-term viability, and is why there's more to this comparison than really meets the eye. Quality is more than skin deep, and Samsung knows that. Let me know which of these two you would pick. I really enjoyed my longest stint with the RAZR earlier in the year, or maybe it was last year at this point, and I'd run it by daily if the cameras weren't so inconsistent, and it's something they could probably fix with software to be honest. Whereas the Samsung ticks more boxes for most people, especially if you're the sort to hold onto your phone for a bit longer and you like playing games. Are you excited to see what each brand comes out with this year? Stepping aside a little bit, I wouldn't mind if Google came out with a Pixel Flip. I think that would do bits, to be quite honest. I'd quite like one of those, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. And whilst you're down there, hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas with Android Police, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.